The people who get promoted fastest never wait to be told what to do. Here's what they actually do differently. Someone on your team just got promoted. And honestly, you're confused. They weren't the smartest person in the room. They didn't work the longest hours. They didn't even lead the biggest project last quarter. But leadership picked them anyway. That gap between what you think gets noticed and what actually gets noticed, that's what we're closing today. The first behavior is one most people completely overlook: solving problems before anyone assigns them. Picture this. Your team uses a shared tracker that everyone complains about but nobody fixes. One person quietly rebuilds the template over a weekend, shares it Monday morning, and suddenly the whole team runs smoother. That person didn't ask for permission or wait for a mandate. They just saw friction and removed it. Leadership notices this because it signals something rare: ownership without being asked. A McKinsey study on high-performing employees found that initiative taking was the single strongest predictor of rapid advancement, ahead of technical skill and even output volume. You don't need to overhaul a system. Start small. Fix the broken onboarding doc. Clean up the messy shared drive. Draft the FAQ nobody wrote yet. When you consistently remove friction others just tolerate, you become someone leadership sees as a builder, not just an executor. Second behavior, and this one feels counterintuitive: make your manager's job easier. Not through flattery. Through anticipation. Think about what keeps your boss up at night. Maybe it's a quarterly review they're preparing for. Maybe it's a client escalation simmering beneath the surface. Now imagine you send a short message: here's a summary of where we stand on that deliverable, with risks flagged and options ready. You just saved them 30 minutes and a headache. That lands differently than a status update they had to chase you for. People who rise fast understand something fundamental: your manager is also being evaluated. When you help them succeed, they advocate for you in rooms you're not in. This isn't politics. It's partnership. At Amazon, the internal principle of make your leader's life easier is quietly one of the fastest paths to visibility, because leaders remember who reduced their cognitive load during high-pressure moments. Third, and this separates senior people from everyone else: never raise a problem without attaching a proposed solution. Anyone can walk into a meeting and say the timeline is slipping. That's just narration. But when you say the timeline is at risk, here are two options I've evaluated, and I recommend option B because it protects the client relationship while buying us a week. Now you sound like someone who belongs in a bigger role. Leadership doesn't need more people identifying fires. They need people who show up with a hose and a plan. Practice this in writing first. Every time you draft a message about a challenge, pause before sending. Add one sentence that starts with "I'd recommend" or "one path forward is," even if your suggestion isn't perfect. The habit of pairing problems with direction trains your brain to think like a leader. And that shift becomes visible fast. Fourth behavior, become the person who connects teams that don't naturally talk to each other. In most companies, departments operate in silos. Engineering doesn't know what marketing promised. Sales doesn't know what product is actually building. The person who bridges those gaps becomes incredibly valuable, not because they hold information, but because they reduce misalignment. At Spotify, they built an entire organizational model around this idea with their guild system, because cross-functional connectors prevented more failures than any single technical improvement. You can start doing this tomorrow. After a meeting with one team, share a 2-line summary with a colleague on another team who'd benefit from knowing. Introduce people who should be collaborating but aren't. Volunteer for cross-team projects even when they're messy. Leadership watches for this because it shows you care about the company winning, not just your lane. Fifth, and this one is quiet but powerful, stay composed when everything around you is falling apart. A server goes down. A client sends a furious email. A deadline moves up by 2 weeks with no warning. Most people react with panic, blame, or withdrawal. The person who takes a breath, organizes the next 3 steps, and starts communicating clearly, that person gets remembered. Not because they're emotionless, but because they're steady. Harvard Business Review research on executive presence found that composure under pressure was rated as the most important leadership trait by senior executives, above communication skills, above strategic thinking. You build this muscle in small moments. When a meeting gets tense, be the one who says, "Let's focus on what we can control right now." When bad news hits, resist the urge to forward the chaos. Summarize it, add context, suggest a path. That calm becomes your reputation. Sixth behavior: own your narrative. This isn't about bragging. It's about making sure the right people understand what you actually contribute. Many talented professionals assume their work speaks for itself. It doesn't. Not in a company with 50 or 500 or 5,000 employees. You need to articulate your impact in ways that connect to what leadership cares about. When you finish a project, write a short recap: what you did, what it changed, what you learned. Share it with your manager. Mention it in your next one-on-one. Use language tied to business outcomes, not just tasks completed. Instead of saying "I updated the dashboard," say "I redesigned the reporting workflow, which cut the leadership team's prep time by 40 minutes per week." Frame your work through impact, not activity. So here's your move for today: just one thing. Pick the behavior from this video that you're weakest at right now. Write it on a sticky note and put it where you'll see it tomorrow morning. Then do one small thing this week that practices it. Fix something nobody asked you to fix. Send your boss a proactive update. Raise a problem with a recommendation attached. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need leadership to start noticing a pattern. And patterns start with a single repeated action. Go build yours. That's a wrap. Thanks for watching. If this gave you one idea you can use today, hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.